Journalists lie and sensationalize, but once you become a part of the story, or were actually there, you realize just how blatantly they lie to push their agenda. Leftist journalists are the worst, though, like Sarah Posner, who pursued me for an interview at the MPI conference. Richard introduced us and she looked at me and said, "I know who you are." She was around 4'2", overweight, and very unfriendly, but I wanted to be entertained. Emily Yukis was with me and Sarah asked if she could speak with us for the common lefty rag, Rolling Stone. Usually I'd record everything, but I didn't this time. Emily Yukis had just been attacked by Antifas on the outside of the conference, and Emily was retelling the story of leftist violence. I noticed Sarah didn't have a recorder, but a tiny notepad and pen, and she wasn't writing any of it down, and in fact was enjoying hearing about Emily being attacked by men. Sarah Posner is Jewish, and most of the articles she writes are about Jewish identity and interests. She supports a Jewish ethno-state, yet attacks Europeans who also want an ethno-state. Sarah came to the conference with one intention: making her story all about Jews. The article she published mentions Emily right off the top, claiming a 26-year-old woman named Emily is praising National Socialism. Praising! This is a lie, a paranoid delusion, and it did not happen. She quotes Emily, "I mean, I think it's worked in certain countries. It is really funny how brainwashed people are to think an economic system means that you're going to kill people." This quote is also utter bull. I was there and this is not what Emily said or how she talks. Sarah didn't use a recorder and she hardly wrote a word down. Instead, she just makes it up. In a condescending tone, she denies that people are fired for having alt-right views. She claims that people were wearing dark sunglasses throughout the day, and many on the alt-right contend that they have been forced into hiding by political correctness. I saw one guy in dark sunglasses, one, and she knows damn well people are fired for having alt-right views, but she sickly delights in their struggle. Emily and two others I know who were seen at this conference were fired afterwards. When she turned to me, I briefly spoke about the irrefutable double standards applied to European people. Of course, she wrote none of it down because these questions anti-whites cannot answer without revealing their hatred of white people. Well, she was bored and said, "Well, what about the Holocaust?" I laughed and said, "Of course." And she finally picked up her pen looking like an excited midget. She was so transparent. It always comes down to the Holocaust. I said, "But which Holocaust? Russian? Ukrainian? Armenian?" I sighed and said, "I'm tired of talking about the Holocaust. I don't want to talk about it." So she writes, "Over the years, Lokteff has come to question the Holocaust, the government's mass murder of Native Americans, and the Armenian genocide. Revisionist history is a big part of her show." When a leftist says revisionist history, they mean actual true history that doesn't support their anti-white Marxist narrative. However, I can count on one hand the dedicated history shows I've done since 2012, but you'll never see Rolling Stone go after commies trying to rewrite Stalin history, although communists killed 60 million people. And it goes on. And she speaks warmly of one of her guests, Mark Weber of the Institute for Historical Review, which the SPLC calls neo-Nazi, pseudo-intellectual, blah blah. I told her if she's so eager to talk Holocaust, go interview Mark Weber from the IHR. This investigative journalist did not take 2 minutes to check if Mark Weber has actually been on my show. And no, he hasn't. She goes on to quote the corrupt SPLC, their go-to source. SPLC is in the biz of manufacturing hate, claiming Mark Weber is a neo-Nazi and pseudo-intellectual. Anyone that doesn't regurgitate their anti-white rhetoric is pseudo-intellectual, and it doesn't matter how many degrees they have. And if you question history surrounding World War II, Nazi! It's so predictable. It becomes even more hilarious. Lokteff tells me she appreciates Weber for tackling the gas chamber story. I appreciate him for tackling the gas chamber story. What is this, a football game? This is ridiculous. She just makes it up. It continues. For me, says Lokteff, looking into these things doesn't mean, oh, I hate Jews. It's like this many Jews didn't die, all right? I laughed so hard when I read this. Like, oh my God, the Jews didn't die, all right? This is a hot, steamy pile of bullshit. It doesn't matter what we actually talked about. Her plan from the second she said, "I know who you are," was about making me out to be a ditzy valley girl whose only focus is to hate Jews, as if everything is about Jews. To her, it is. Her drivel continues. Of course, millions of Jews did in fact die, but there's no time for that. No time for that because she's lying. Nowhere did we talk about the number of Jews that died during World War II. Further, if she actually did some research, she'd find out that no one has claimed no Jews died. A lot of people died, including Germans, Americans, Russians, and Jews. And more on the Holocaust, although I told her I was tired of talking about the Holocaust. Lokteff hosts a radio program on Red Ice, a pro-European online radio and TV platform which recently featured Holocaust denier David Colt discussing the truth about Auschwitz. Well, David Colt is Jewish. This was a great interview. He's a nice guy, and you all should go listen to it and watch his documentary. But that interview was 1 year ago, hardly recent. This is her weak attempt to try and discredit me, since billions of dollars of propaganda has been blasted into people's heads that if you question this period of history, you must be insane. So insane that in some countries, they'll put you in jail for it. She cries racist when a white person embraces their European identity, yet Sarah just can't stop talking about things that relate to Jews. And it goes on. And a discussion with another guest on how the Holo hoax instigated her own red pill process. Alt-right speak for becoming woke to white nationalism. Well, the link in the article is broken, so who knows what she's talking about. But woke? That's urban slang, not something you hear on my show. She thinks when someone says red-pilled, that's code for Holocaust. I stated from the get-go, I do not want to talk about Jews or the Holocaust. White identity has nothing to do with Jews. But Sarah Posner made it all about Jews. And now here I am having to talk about Jews, and then they'll cry anti-Semite. See the cycle? She claimed, both women are certain lies pervade our understanding of the world, and the alt-right has led them to the truth. And wrong again. We never said the alt-right led us to the truth. This is ridiculous. Red Ice has been instrumental in promoting alt-right thought. It came to us after years of covering numerous related topics. This Rolling Stone rubbish was funded by the Investigative Fund, who is well tied in with other globalists, open borders, anti-white foundations, many of which happen to be run by Jews. These orgs have tons of money to influence public opinion through lies. The articles they funded for Sarah are anti-Trump, anti-white, and anti-Christian. That is their agenda.